Good morning, everyone. Heather here from California Afterschool Network. Thank you for joining us today again. This is our sixth video in the series of near weekly fireside chats with Michael Funk from CDE. And you can find all of our fireside chats in our resource center on the CAN website and on our YouTube channel. Today we have several special guests joining us from Healdsburg, from both the school district and their CBO partner, the city's Community Services Department. They will be sharing with us not only what they've been doing to respond to COVID in the immediate term, but also how they are partnering around plans for moving forward, for talking about reopening schools. So welcome, Erin, Grace, Dave, and Mark. Happy to have you all here today.
Thank you.
Thank you. Michael, before we jump into our conversation with Healdsburg, last Thursday, the division released some guidance on the role of expanded learning during COVID, and just wanted to check to see if you had any further updates or clarification on this guidance before we get started.
Yeah, I do. I'm going to do, thank you, Heather, and welcome Healdsburg, California. So glad to have you on. We had a tip last week from William Meyer from Sonoma County Office of Ed in terms of some of the great work you were doing, and as it relates to looking forward in the partnership building. And that's exactly what I want to say a few words about in terms of this guidance memo that we put out last week. I'm going to show off my Zoom skills and do a fancy document share right here on the screen. You can find that on the website, the role of expanded learning during COVID-19. And right here, there's a paragraph that starts out, expanded learning programs should provide support to students and families. So what we emphasize here is that our expanded learning programs should be doing everything they can. Working in partnership with districts, cities, the community, and of course, what we have been doing very intentionally is sharing stories of communities that are coming together to do just that. There was one point of confusion. The second part of that paragraph talks about utmost attention should be given to the health and safety of staff and the individuals served. And then it said for guidance about what that constitutes for good health and safety practices, we put a link to the Department of Social Services physical distancing guidance document that we actually put out on the guidance to the executive order several weeks ago. There was some confusion because this document that we refer to as here are some principles to keep in mind when you're thinking about social distancing, sanitization, personal protection, was all in the context of childcare. And this top paragraph was guidance for both 21st century elementary middle, assets high school, and the state ACES grants. Because we linked to a document about childcare, some wondered if we were then saying it's okay to spend the federal funds, 21st century, for serving the school-age children of critical infrastructure workers, which is what the guidance was about. And the answer is we still have not received and don't anticipate receiving flexibility from the feds, from the Federal Education Department to use 21st century in any other way than it has been designated to use. Having said that, 21st century by design is more flexible than ACES funding. It's always been designed to be able to use in the community. I know Healdsburg does not have a 21st century federal grant. You're only ACES funding, but I wanted to make that clear that nothing has changed from the original executive order and the guidance that we've issued. On the very bottom, on the back side of this paper, but on the bottom of our web posting for this guidance, it does refer you back to the ACES and 21st century guidance from the executive order. So with that point of clarification, I'm very enthusiastic. We had a brief conversation on Monday here with the folks from Healdsburg and to see what they're doing. And Erin is the Director of Curriculum and Instruction for Healdsburg Unified School District. And I'm going to turn it to you, Erin, to kind of have you kick us off in terms of introduce a bit of the work and tell us a little bit about Healdsburg. Most of us have gone there for a nice day off or a glass of wine. What's the part of
Yeah.
Healdsburg we might not see by driving through town?
Sure. So we're in Northern California, about an hour and a half north of the San Francisco Bay Area. We're a semi-rural community, so we we serve about 1,500 kids total in the district, a little shy of 1,500 kids, preschool through high school. So a fairly small school, unified school district. About 75% of our kids receive a free or reduced price lunch. And about 60 to 70% of our kids come to us as kindergartners and need English language development. They're bilingual students. So, I think as you kind of hinted at, most people think about the town square and the beautiful places to drink wine, trying to represent here, our beautiful idyllic scenery. But we do have a lot of families of high need that really make this hospitality economy hum. They're the vineyard workers, the hotel workers, restaurant workers, all of the people who make this wonderful hospitality and service industry that we benefit from. We are a comfortable school district in terms of, need and budget, but we do serve high need families. And the partnership that we've had with the city for many, many years, I've been with the district for 5 years. Prior to me being a part of the district, we had ACES funding. We were partnered with the city. It's a long-term engagement, and it's been very it's been a nice thing to have over the last couple of years. I'll tell you, we have gotten our fair share of challenges up here in 2017 fire, in which it impacted us. We were out of school for nearly a month, and then we had floods in 2018, and then last year we had fire in our community. We were, we had homes and businesses burned in Healdsburg. So it's been an interesting run, and now we've got a worldwide pandemic. Just can't thank the city enough. They've stepped up through all of these various trials and tribulations. They are right now. They continue to serve our kids. So I'm going to let them talk a little bit about what they're doing with our kids and some things that we're planning on doing for next year if we're in a similar situation.
Awesome. Thanks, Erin. And yeah, definitely want to recognize that important partnership between the school district and the city. And so I think perfect time to turn it over to the city. And Dave, have you talk a little bit more about the programmatic side and introduce us to Grace. So if you want to share your role over there.
Absolutely. Heather, Michael, thank you for having us on. Hello, everyone. I'm Dave Jahns. I'm the Recreation Manager with the City of Healdsburg's Community Services Department. And one of the roles that I have with the city is the opportunity to work with our amazing ACES after-school staff. I provide support to our on-the-ground team, which Grace will get an opportunity to chat about the great work that they're doing both in the school sites and then most recently things that we're trying to do while we're not in the school sites these last few months. So what we saw immediately when the whole pandemic came to our part of the world, to our community, our first response was to meet immediate needs of the community. So that came in the form of ACES staff transitioning out of their traditional after-school role to help with things like food and meal security. So doing food distribution to the general community, making sure that our isolated seniors had food in their homes, any other needs that they had. They were helping with deliveries and getting things directly to their doorstep in a safe and contactless manner. Assisting with things like essential childcare for essential workers. So staff that were continuing to work in the community had a place to send their kids during the day in a safe environment. Then what we found here is the situation has evolved and continued, is that we know that students and families are at home trying to balance work, trying to balance distance learning. And that's a struggle, is that everyone has very full schedules, limited resources to technology, maybe just one computer at home that they're all trying to balance. So really shifting our model away from just doing a cut and paste job of our normal after school program and really trying to find out what those families need during this time. So what we're transitioning to in the last few weeks is making that connection individually with our ACES families. So our staff has been reaching out to find out on a one-on-one basis. What does that family need, both in the way of physical needs, so whether it's school supplies, recreation supplies, maybe things like groceries, but also from enrichment resources. What is it that they want during those after school hours? We don't want to compete or add stress to those families that are trying to teach from home for the first time, but really what we're trying to do is work with the school district and those families to complement that virtual learning during the afternoon hours. So that's what we're in the process of right now, is making individual calls. But I think at this point would be a good time to turn it over to Grace Guerrero. So she is our after school coordinator. She oversees all of the programs at 3 different locations in Healdsburg and really works with our staff that are on the ground making a difference. So I'll turn it over to Grace to kind of share how that experience is going.
Hi everyone, this is Grace Guerrero, and I am the after school program coordinator for the city of Healdsburg. And so a little bit about what we're doing right now is trying to connect with our families, our ACEs program families. And what we're trying to do is trying to basically, like Dave mentioned, we're trying to figure out what is it that they need. We want to help them as much as possible, relieve a little bit of the anxiety and stress that a lot of these parents are facing, you know, trying to learn that whole distance learning. So we're trying to figure out what's our next step to help these families with whatever they need. We want to get into a lot of the programs where, you know, we can have our kids being active, whether it's a project online over Zoom, or whether it's going to be any kind of other activity as far as enrichments. We're trying to figure that piece out because, you know, these families really do need our help. And just, you know, with not being at school and not seeing them, you know, on a daily basis, to me, it doesn't seem like it's fair for them not to have our services. So once we figure out what our next step is to get these kids to, you know, get active again in our after school program, I think it's going to help them realize, you know, to get back into our normal life. You know, a lot of these families do need it. A lot of our families are Spanish speaking, so they really do need a lot of support. And that's where I'm trying to help out, you know, because I also work with the district. I'm trying to help them with, you know, interpretation. I'm trying to help them with anything that they need as far as homework going, you know, trying to help them. And then, yes, we need to have some kind of a fun activity for them to have access to. So those are things that we're trying to look for these kids and their families. It's just that major support for them. A lot of them don't have a lot of technology. You know, sometimes they have to share the computer. So it's just getting them just to really get that support, you know, whether it's just that they need to let out their frustrations or whatnot. We're here. And my after school program staff, you know, we're willing to come back into helping these families with everything that they need, anything.
Grace, that's such a powerful testimony of how you're really treating each individual family as an individual. You know, that's such a powerful example of equity in action, because you're not trying to apply the same solution to everybody, but you're really knowing in relationship with these families and their parents and the kids and meeting their needs directly. So thank you for that powerful story. Thank you for making sure kids are having fun. Fun is important.
Yeah.
And thank you so much for all of your work in terms of serving the children of critical infrastructure workers, which is a huge need and a concern. Grace, just one quick question. I mean, how long have you been doing this and why? What's your passion?
Well, you know, I'm going on 21 years with the school district. And like I said, 13 years with the after school program. And my passion is these kids and trying to make a really good connection with them so that they're able to, you know, find what they're good at and take it from there and become successful in life.
Yeah, I love.
And I'll say from the school district's point of view, Grace is one of those linchpin people that she works for us as an instructional assistant during the school day in the classrooms, and then, you know, does a double duty in the afternoon of the after school program, and is just one of those people that she knows everybody, kids, families, staff, background, knows how to find it, where to find it, connects us with the city, the family with the district. You just can't thank you enough, Grace, for the work that you do, both, you know, throughout the day and then into the evening hours through the after school program.
And Grace, there are thousands of Graces all across California, and we talk about the strength of expanded learning being the Graces that know the people, know the community, have this intimate connection, and have a deep sense of purpose in terms of their work. So thank you, Grace.
Thank you.
I just want to make a pivot now in terms of now looking forward, and also reach out to Erin again, and also Mark, in terms of what this looks like now moving forward. Erin, you mentioned something to me about how critical it was for your ACES funding, your grants, to be extended another 6 months, and how that is factoring in here. But I'll leave it to both of you to give us a little bit of, now what does this look like moving forward?
Yeah, so such a gift to have the extension. You know, as Grace said, they're continuing to provide service, but as we know, it's limited when the kids aren't with you for hours in the day. So the fact that we can look forward knowing that we can use the money smartly and not just spend it, but to spend it with thought, and over a longer period of time is huge for us. You know, all the school districts across the world now are starting to think about reopening, and knowing that we've got some cushion and funds to use through the mid of next year, we can have real conversations. It's, you know, there's more unknown than there is known right now. And we're, you know, planning A, B, and C, plan A, B, and C, but knowing that there's the extension and that it was fully funded. You know, we like most, we have a junior high program and attendance goes up and down. So the fully funded and the extension has allowed us to have real and true conversations, and not just a hope and a wish and a prayer, but I think a little more solid, knowing that that extension is in place. And it's one of the few things where we're like, okay, we know this. We know this is something we do know, because there's so many unknowns right now.
Thank you. So what type of role are you talking about in terms of how the ACES program might connect and be part of this solution that no one quite knows what it's going to look like?
Sure, right. So plan A is we go back to school per normal, right? Wouldn't that be a wonderful thing that by middle of August, we're able to start back up normally? Plan C is that we're still in distance learning, and we're all hopeful that that's not what we're doing. So I think most of us are actively planning for kind of a hybrid program that would allow us to get our kids back into our classrooms with our highly qualified teachers for at least part of the week in a social distancing manner. I mentioned earlier that we have the majority of our families, they need to work, and both of the parents are working. So we don't have a situation where we can have our kids just at home the other half of the day if they're at school, or half of the week. So we need to get creative, and as a school district, work with our community partners like the city and the after school care to expand the offerings and think about after school possibly being a part of the week, a full day. So thankfully the city has some facilities, and we're talking about when our students are not on the school campuses with us, can they provide a safe and supportive environment to do distance learning with our ACES staff. So that's the conversation right now, because we know that families are not going to be able to continue to be at home and sheltering in place with their kids and providing some level of support. So
Mark, could you chime in with that from your perspective?
Absolutely. So technically, the city has a contractual relationship with the school district to provide the after-school program. So it's a piece of paper, but I really believe, and our department really feels, that we are stronger together. And we've tried to bring that into everything that we do, including the after-school program, to help each other. So there have been examples like during the 2019 Kincaid fire, where we were able to step up and provide childcare for teachers who needed to get back in the classroom. The other piece that we have that's an asset that we can bring to the table is we have real estate. We have a community center that we operate out of, which happened to be an old elementary school that has access to classrooms. We have a senior center in town that likely won't resume traditional operations for some time. And we're talking about that being a model of true intergenerational opportunities where we open that up for school-age childcare. We have other facilities that we've been talking about that have potential to do that. What I think is going to be needed as I look towards the future is that everyone's going to need to come together to support the kids in the community. We can bring our expertise from our after school and our childcare. We can bring facilities and facility space to the table, and we can bring other community partners who can help make this all happen. Again, as Erin said, it's in discussions right now, and there's still some unknowns about how that structure can happen, but we're talking about how we can make it happen.
Well, it's such an incredibly concrete example of working together as a whole community. And, you know, years ago, we changed the name of my division from the After School Division to the Expanded Learning Division. And what you're describing of a whole bunch of humans coming together to support children, regardless of what time of day they used to do it, now coming together. Because the time and space of after school might not be, who knows how long Plan B is going to last, but we're in it. Thank you so much, all of you, for taking your time. Heather, again, thank you to CAN for hosting these weekly conversations. I think it's really powerful to hear the story of Healdsburg, as we've heard other stories, and I'll turn it back to you, Heather.
Sure. So we're going to close out, and I'm going to first give you all a prompt and then give you a few seconds to think about it. So we know that a lot of programs have been struggling with, you know, what do we do? How do we move forward? There's some guidance, but we have a lot of questions. So kind of the prompt to you all is, you know, what is your one piece of advice to help programs as they are responding now or thinking about how to plan for the fall? So that's the prompt. And while you're thinking about that, I'm going to share my screen quickly with the audience, and hopefully everyone can see this. So you all have an amazing story, and we know there's a lot of other great work going on in the field, and so we want people to share their stories. Unfortunately, we can't highlight everyone on these fireside chats, but would really love to promote as many programs and all their awesome work on social media. So we do ask that you share your story at our hashtag Expanded Learning all day, every day, and tag us, whether it's Twitter, Facebook, and just continue to share the awesome work that you're doing. And with that, I'm now going to turn it back over to our Healdsburg folks, and I've got most of our contact information up here. So Grace, if you're ready, why don't we start with you with your kind of closing piece of advice?
Okay, so for me, I think I'm very fortunate to have the support staff, you know, whether it's Dave, Garrett, or Mark, but also know that with the district, Erin and all of the, you know, the elementary principals, I'm very fortunate to have that close community connection that I hope other districts can kind of think of our story and think that, okay, we need to bridge together in order to help these kids overcome a lot of everything that's been happening with, you know, the pandemic. Just get closeness and get connected, you know, if you haven't already, just because it's really important to be on the same page and serve the needs of the students and the families.
Thank you, Grace. And as Michael said, thank you just for all of the work you're doing. You are so essential to continuing to serve our children and youth and families.
Thank you.
Mark, how about we go to you next? And you might be muted.
There we go.
There you go.
So I've been on a number of statewide calls for parks and recreation agencies, and a lot of those agencies are trying to figure out what their way forward is. And I've shared this story that we have, this partnership with the school district, and it is somewhat unique. And I think that if you are in a school district and you're struggling with what to do, reach out to your city partners and talk about opportunities. They all asked on this week's Zoom call that I was on that I share this video with those cities so they can think about how they might do things differently. It's a pretty powerful relationship. We not only do we provide services to the district, but we also receive a lot of benefits in terms of joint facility use and the overall collaborative nature that the district brings to the table. So I believe, again, that's part of our core mission. We're stronger together, and we need to help each other. And I think this is a great example. We're certainly here for questions if anyone has them.
Great. Thank you, Mark. And Dave?
Yeah, I'll be quick. Grace and Mark hit a lot of the ideas, but my few pieces of advice would just be, if you haven't built that relationship with your school district, or if your district built that relationship with the city, is looking to break down those silos and kind of get out of your traditional roles and just have those conversations about what is the best need right now for our students and our community as a whole. We've unfortunately had some practice at this, as Erin mentioned, over the last few years with a few disasters where we've had to step outside of our normal roles and really look at what is best for the community. This is something that's going to be affecting us for much longer. You know, we're looking at a year of altered learning and resources for our community. So just get out of those traditional roles and think about what is best for the community. And finally, is just rely on the experts within your organization. Grace and her amazing team, they have those connections with those families. So being able to utilize those staff to make those connections, find out what those families need, and then react accordingly. So just staying nimble.
Thanks, Dave. And Erin, let's have you with our final piece of advice.
Yeah, you guys set me up perfectly. I was, thinking about different options, and, we all get into public service to be helpers, and because we want to fix things. We're fixers, we're solution finders. But I think we sometimes forget to ask for help. And I found that every time we ask for help, whether it be the city or other community partners, they not only rise to like what our ask is, but often go beyond. So when it was, we've got evacuations happening in Santa Rosa where many of our school teachers work, but we're running school in Healdsburg and we need childcare for our teachers, they stepped up. Now we're thinking, my God, we need a place to provide a safe and learning environment, possibly for half of our kids a week, and asking the city, can you help? And they're stepping up and probably gonna, go above and beyond the ask. So similar to talking to the city people, talking to the school people, just ask for help. We don't all need to do this alone. And we're learning to do things differently than we've ever done them before. And it's scary and weird, but I think the innovation and the partnerships that are going to come out of this are going to make us all better in the long run from it.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you all for your advice. And again, we have contact information up. I'm actually going to pull that down though now and just express my gratitude to the Healdsburg team for joining us today and for all the work that you're doing together to serve your community. And turn it over to you, Michael, for any last words you want to share before we log off.
Well, I'm very inspired, as I always am on these calls, and to put a very human part to this. Thanks for your honesty, your transparency, for sharing everything you've shared. I will just close with what I always say. In this time and always, we need to lead with love to get to learning. Let's love our kids. Let's love ourselves. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.